Welcome to Enchanted Moonlight Readings with myself, Leslie Vivian. Um, so, we are going to embark on a new um, journey, so to speak, okay? And I hope you guys will receive this well. I already had tried it with a dear astrologer friend of mine covering the Selena case. And so I've decided that I'm going to continue with that and try to give my personal analysis of what exactly transpired here. Okay, so this is a new series that I'm going to be calling True Crime Astrology. The name is tentative. I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with it, but we will try it out. And as long as it's not taken, then, we shall proceed. And if not, then I'll rename it something else. But essentially, it's basically what we were doing with the Selena case, except I want to go ahead and dive in deeper with other murder victims and really take a look at the astrology behind not only their natal chart but also like their chart as it was as the transits were when they met their fate. So my first one, and I have a few, and again, I never mean any disrespect when I'm doing these readings. I always try my hardest to, really honor the people involved and the families that are left behind, and no disrespect whatsoever. And this is going to be done in the most tasteful manner. And I haven't figured out how to edit really on here, and I especially can't figure out the new YouTube studio. So we're gonna just try and do this the best we can, and I'll try and see if I can insert like a screenshot of the chart that I will be reading. Okay, so here we go. This is for Shanann Watts. I felt really compelled and strongly toward this victim, this woman, this amazing woman, in my opinion, because she was actually born in the same year that I was born, and I know for a fact that Pluto was squaring Venus at that point in time, and Saturn was in Scorpio. And so just looking at her chart, let's get started. Okay, so as we all may or may not know, Shanann was a Capricorn. She was born January 10th, 1984 in New Jersey. Okay, the time is unknown, but there's a certain way that I do these things to where like I try to feel out the energy of like when this person may or may not have been like born. And so I came up with a time. I know there's like a strategy to do it, but I do more intuitive like astrology readings. Like it's more that. I'm sorry. I'm gonna stop trying to fidget with myself. I'm just, I'm never like camera ready ever, and I'm always fidgeting. So, anyway, the way I have it laid out, she has her sun in Capricorn in the first house, and it's like the first planet in her astrology chart, her natal chart. And so with the sun in the first house, it would be more like your identity and how people view you. And so people did really view Shanann as a hard-working woman. Like she strived for her business and all of her accomplishments. And the thing about Capricorn risings and just Capricorns in general, they know that they're not going to just be handed something. They know they're not just going to be handed like a silver platter. It's like they know, and they're well aware since like childhood that if they want anything, they're going to have to work so hard. And maybe like it's like not easy for them. Like I don't really know the background of Shanann in that depth. I know a little bit, but not to that extent. I don't know. As far as all accounts, is that she had a very happy childhood, but she did struggle in high school or in school, I believe, with bullying. People would bully her. And that is a very big possibility, especially because she also shares the first house with Black Moon Lilith in Pisces. And so it's in the first house. So like people are definitely going to like look at her and be like, well, who does she think she is? You know, like, and maybe like she was very coveted by you know, men and just girls like wanted to bring her down. I want to be very respectful when I say all this stuff. She also has Pallas in the first house, like right in between the sun and Lilith. So Pallas is like in the middle. So like she needed to focus her energy on working. Like it was like a huge part of her. Like she didn't like you know, like it was soothing to her Lilith because it could really get the best of you, and we all have Lilith somewhere. But with her, it's like she was struggling with like trying to like start a business and overcome all these obstacles and being brought down at the same time. And it's like, well, I'm sorry that you have a problem with the business that I am doing, but I'm really good at it. So, you know, sorry, that is your problem. Okay, so moving on to the second house. She's got the second house in it's in a cusp in Pisces and Aries, and so she probably like really valued all of her like, you know, like her accomplishments and her values, her belongings, and just like really strived for them. And if like someone were like anybody that has the moon in the second house is going to be like, wait a minute, you just stole from me, you just did this, you just did that, like they don't take these things lightly because the moon rules your emotions. Okay, so also like it was very much in her nature to strive for a better life for her family, and meaning with finances. Like, it, and you know what? This placement also like has like, people love beautiful things with the second house having the moon in there. People love beautiful things, and so she had her moon in Aries, and so that is like, you know what, I'm getting what I want, and it means everything to me, and I'm going full throttle. Sorry, I have my makeup brush. Sometimes I get a little worked up, and I need to make sure I don't have any shine. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so this is interesting. Okay, third house has Juno surrounded by Sedna, Pholus, and Eris. Okay, so like this is the third house, so like of course she met her spouse online. Like that's where she met him, and she talked greatly about that, and like even like did a lot of online videos, which I can relate to. Being like born in the same year that she was born, like like we're exploring that side of you know of business. Like I have a lot of things in common with Shanann. So crazy, but anyway, so Sedna is basically like when she's left for dead, she crawls with, like, even if they chop off her fingers, if she's like holding on to a ship and like they chop off her fingers and all she's got is like stubs, like she will still, even if she sinks to the bottom of the ocean, like she will still become the queen of the underworld. You know what I mean? Like that's Sedna. That's the mythology behind it. Not don't get it twisted, okay? So the fact that it's like surrounded by Juno is the interesting part, because Juno is your husband, your spouse, and Pholus is right next to him, and that's basically shooting yourself in your own foot. So I don't know. It kind of seems like she went against her better judgment, which is completely plausible because, you know, she is also, it's just the astrology behind the year that 1984, like, we can very much become sitting ducks and like just like be waiting for the next shoe to drop and like be like, no, everything's fine, everything's gonna be okay, everything's gonna be okay. Like, if anything, like a big fight, and then like and then you're like in serious danger. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. Um, this is sad. So the next house is um the fourth house, and she's got Chiron there. So it's like she struggled a lot to become a mother, and on the day of, because that's where I have it set, on the day of that all this ensued of her murder, you have Juno aspecting her Chiron and Sedna as well. Like, Chiron and Sedna are like transiting, and then her Chiron which is the wounded healer. Like, you know, like the problems that people have in their lives, is sitting in her fourth house, her home, house of mother, of being a mother. That's sad, y'all. Not to mention that, like, over here, if we backtrack a little bit, when I was speaking about the third house, and she has Juno in the third house in her natal, um, in the transit is Eris and Uranus. So, like, for me, that means, like, it was an unexpected and brutal change. Like, just something unexpected happened. Because Eris is actually, like, if you're being abused. And so he was clearly, like, you know, being abusive toward her. And something, like, he literally snapped and something switched inside of him. And so he, like, yeah, ended her life. This is gonna take me more times to, like, record because there's just so much here. Oh my god. Alright, okay. So in her seventh house, she has natally, she has Verte, Nessus, and Orcus. And these are generally, like, what I refer to as the Pluto tribe. And this is in the house of relationships. And she's got North Node there. So your destiny in life. Mercury retrograde right next to it. I actually remember this day. This day, something crazy was happening in the stars because even I had, like, a mishap at work that, like, it took me, like, a while to, like, undo. So it's kind of crazy that, like, all this, like, you know, happened on that day because, like, God, I forget what was happening. I'm seriously gonna have to go back and, like, redo this. Yeah, so Mercury had just gone retrograde, and the Sun. All of this, all of this is, like, in her house of relationships. So it's, like, something to do with her relationship, and it was, like, a revelation of some kind. And it was the destiny of her soul to do so. And also because, like, in the eighth house, if we're moving on, she has the moon. The moon was in Virgo at that time. And, you know, not to say that Virgo moons are, like, careless or whatever, but, like, they really can just, like, not feel anything sometimes. Like, they just, anyway. So the fact that she had, oh, this is so sad. She had Cetus, the moon, and Orcus transiting through her eighth house, the house of death. And so there was a revelation of some kind, and Cetus is, like, children, like, either your childhood or you and your children. So that's very, like, intriguing that it was all in the eighth house, and that's the house of death. Like, that is so sad. Oh. And not to mention that, like, her her midheaven, which is actually super important, was in is in Scorpio, and people with the midheaven in Scorpio can have an impact even after death. Like they will continue on. And possibly, their legacy will live on and change stuff. Like, so it doesn't happen again. And oddly enough, she had Saturn there in her natal. So it's quite interesting. Like if she would have just gotten through this night, she would still probably be here. Because this was a night of revelation to her. Because like it kind of seems like everything like came together and was like crystal clear. It's like, wait a minute, you're lying to me, and um, we have some stuff to talk about. And he was trying to silence her, trying to like get her to like shh, like you're gonna ruin my new love and all that. And Saturn was in her 12th house transiting. So it all came to a head. And of course, we all know that Saturn is also the father figure, the father of your children. And the fact that it was in the 12th house, like it's not always a bad thing. It could mean your actual dad passing away. But in this case, he made everyone pass away. I'm gonna have to explore this a little more, but that's basically my analysis for now. God rest her soul. She had an intuition, and she knew something was up, and it's just oh my god, I didn't even see this. She had Mars transiting with Lilith and South Node in her first house. Death. The end. Oh my god. Because Mars is quick, anger. It could be a passionate. It could be like, could mean like, sex. It could mean death. It could mean blood. It could mean like but with it next to Lilith transiting through the first house, that is something sinister that unfortunately met her demise. It was so tragic. Okay, I'm gonna cut it off there. There's a lot more to go over, but this is getting a little heavy. So, okay, bye. Thank you. See you later.